Okay, so I'm going to do tying directions for the sexy slider. This is a fly that I tied many, many years ago for redfish here in Mosquito Lagoon. Uh, it is very similar to Tim Borski's redfish slider, just uses some different materials. And when I actually designed this fly and introduced it to Umpqua Feather Merchants, I messaged Tim and asked him for permission to do it because it is so similar. He was gracious enough, told me to go for it, and actually said he really liked the design change to the fly. So, starting out, we're going to use a 34007 number 4 for this demonstration, but the fly can be tied in any size, from size 8 to 1/0. I've tied it in. Some people I know have actually tied it larger. So, first step is our tail on the fly. And the tail on the fly is going to be using a rabbit zonker. This is an olive barred rabbit zonker. And want to measure it to where it is twice the length of the hook. It's kind of important to have that properly length of tail so it gives me the movement that I want. We'll just go underneath the fur, cut the hide. Now, because it's going to be the tail of the fly, we want that natural flow backwards with the fur. You can see as it lays down from right to left, and that's going to be the tail of the fly. So I'm going the very front, double it over. I'm just going to make a little notch in the hide. Then I'm going to take my hook point and I'm going to put it through that notch. So as the hook point is up, so is the rabbit fur. Okay, the hide's down towards the hook shank, the fur is up, because it's going to ride hook point up. That's the design of the fly. And then I'll put it in my vise. Attach my thread. I'm just going to pull that rabbit zonker down, and I'm going to tie it on the hook shank. Secure it with my thread, and then I'm going to move my thread forward to right behind the hook eye. All right, now extra small lead eyes for a number 4 and the depth I'm fishing. Usually the depth I'm fishing is 1.5 feet or less for the redfish here. So I need it to get down, but I don't want it to hit the water so hard that it spooks fish. You can use whatever size eyes you need to get to the water depth and the sink rate that you want. If I'm fishing snook, with this fly, I may actually go with bead chain so it suspends in the water column a little more. And if I'm fishing something like black drum and I need it to get down even quicker, I'll tie some larger ones. So we're going to tie them on the top of the hook shank. And I just put them right up behind the hook eye, unless I'm going to add a weed guard. If I'm going to add a weed guard, I can move it back a little bit. Right now we don't have a lot of grass, so I'm not real worried about the weed guard. Move my thread back. I'll apply a little bit of head cement on the eyes. Just kind of secure them. Keep them from spinning when this fly gets eaten. Too much and just kind of make sure it soaks into that thread really well. All right, now I'm going to position it back hook point up. So we've got our tail done, our eyes done. Our next material for our collar is going to be crosscut rabbit. And the crosscut is, as you can see, the hide laying flat and the fur flows backwards. And this is going to be our collar. Just going to take a zonker of it. And it's real important when you attach this, make sure your fur portion is actually flowing toward the tail of the fly. Take it, lay it on top and tie it in. And then we're going to palmer it around with that fur flowing backwards 2 to 3 times, just depending on how much room you have on the hook shank. Bigger the fly, the more times you'll wrap it. Smaller the fly, the fewer times. We're going to tie it off. And then very carefully make sure you don't cut your thread. Just cut the excess off. And then I'll kind of pull it back with my fingers and just wrap it off really well. All right, so now you got your tail, your collar, and you can see that rabbit fur flows really well. And that's what I wanted, this pulsating, moving action in the water. Even when the fly's sitting there, that tail will move up and down, and this collar really pulsates in the water. So sometimes the fly can just be laying there and the fish will eat it. Our final material is going to be some body hair. I usually use a little bit different color than what the body is, just to offset it some. Some people like to do it all one color. I just like a little off different color. And I want about a number 2 pencil thickness. So we're going to take it, we're going to cut a hunk of it. I'll take a little comb and just run it through the tips, clean out any under fur that's in it. And I'm going to trim those tips to where they're even. I'm going to set that right on top. You can see I want the tips poking out beyond, just a little bit beyond the hook eye. And I'm just going to flare this. I'm not going to spin it. My thread right behind the lead eyes. I'm just going to flare it. Trying to keep all that fur, or body hair, I mean, up on top. I'll pull those tips back. I'll wrap between the tips and the lead eyes. Move my thread forward. Give it a little whip finish. Cut our thread up. Now, that's the basic portion of the fly. Okay. Now we still have to trim the deer hair. Now when these were done commercially, unfortunately one of the things they did is they trimmed this really tight, and it ruined the effect of the original design. The original design was to leave this kind of bulky, so it pushed a lot of water for dirty water conditions. So I just go in, trim it off a little bit. You can trim it away from your hook eye if you want to, just to make it a little easier when you're putting it on the leader. And then just trim some of these tips a little. Again, it's not meant to be nice and neat and packed. It's meant to be kind of bulky, so it really pushes that water. It also acts as a natural weed guard, so I don't have to worry about the mono weed guard. But when the fish eats, they can press that deer hair and still get it really well. So that is the fly finished. Again, it's worked for largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, brown trout, bonefish, snook, tarpon, redfish, barramundi. It's worked all around the world. So give it a try, see if you like it.